From customers to community, the small business strategy for zero churn. Are you tired of customers leaving after just one purchase despite all your loyalty programs? What if I told you the secret to ultimate retention isn't about more discounts or point programs, but about creating something far more powerful? I'm Scott Lindsay, and over my career as a chief risk officer, compliance leader, and founder of an internet solutions company that served over 85 financial institutions, I've seen thousands of businesses struggle with the same problem. They think loyalty is transactional. Buy 9 coffees, get 1 free. Spend $1,000, earn some points. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. In 2026, that approach is completely broken. And today, we're diving into how small businesses are building thriving communities that turn customers into advocates who never want to leave. So let me paint you a picture of what's actually happening out there. There's a local bike shop, not a chain, just a small operation, that has a 97% customer retention rate. Not because they discount their bikes, not because they have the lowest prices, but because they've created something completely different. Every Tuesday evening, they host group rides. They have a private Facebook group where customers share routes, repair tips, and organize weekend adventures. They let their most passionate customers lead workshops on bike maintenance. And here's what's fascinating. These customers defend this shop online, recruit their friends, and wouldn't dream of buying their next bike anywhere else. That's not a loyalty program. That's a community. And the difference between the two is everything. Before we go deeper, if you're a small business owner who's tired of chasing customers and wants to build something that lasts, hit that like button and subscribe. We drop new strategies every week on managing risk and building resilient businesses. And drop a comment telling me, what's your biggest challenge with customer retention right now? The loyalty illusion. Okay, so let's talk about why traditional loyalty programs are dying. And look, I've worked with organizations that spent millions on these programs, so I've seen the data. The problem is consumer fatigue. Your customers are already enrolled in 17 different loyalty programs. They've got apps on their phones they forgot they downloaded. They have points expiring they didn't even know they earned. The whole system has become noise. But there's something deeper going on here. When I was CFO of a publicly traded bank, we ran the numbers on our rewards program constantly. What we found was that these programs were keeping the wrong customers. The ones who were just chasing the points, optimizing for the reward, gaming the system. They had no actual loyalty to us. They had loyalty to the discount. The moment a competitor offered better points, gone. You know what I mean? You're not building loyalty when someone's primary relationship with your business is mathematical optimization. And here's the really counterintuitive part. These programs can actually decrease authentic connection because now every interaction is transactional. The customer isn't thinking, I love this business. They're thinking, am I getting my points? You've trained them to see you as a vending machine. There's a coffee shop that figured this out the hard way. They had a punch card system. Buy 10 drinks, get 1 free. Sounds good, right? But they noticed something strange. Their regulars stopped chatting with the baristas. They'd just hold out their card, get their punch, and leave. The whole vibe of the place changed. They were destroying the very thing that made people want to come in, the sense of belonging. So they killed the punch card program, just ended it. And instead, they started remembering people's names and orders. They put up a community board for local events. They hosted open mic nights. And you know what happened? Their regular customer base actually grew because people weren't coming for points. They were coming to be part of something. The community advantage. Now, let's get into what a real customer community actually looks like, because this isn't just slapping up a Facebook group and calling it a day. There's some real psychology here that matters. Humans are wired for belonging. It's not a nice to have. It's a fundamental need. And in an increasingly isolated world, people are desperate for authentic connection. Your business can provide that, but only if you understand what you're actually building. A true community has 3 elements, and this comes from years of watching what works and what doesn't. First, shared identity. People need to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. Second, mutual value exchange. Members need to help each other, not just consume from you. And third, consistent touch points. Community requires rhythm and ritual. Let me give you a use case that illustrates this perfectly. There's a small bookstore that was getting crushed by Amazon. Their prices couldn't compete, their selection was limited, and their foot traffic was declining. Classic death spiral, right? But instead of closing, they leaned into community. They started hosting author talks, sure, but here's where it gets interesting. They let their customers curate the events. They created book clubs that met in the store, but the customers ran them. They had a shelf where customers could recommend books to each other with handwritten notes explaining why. The result? People started identifying as members of this bookstore's community. They'd say, "I'm a Bookhaven person." That was the name. They'd bring friends to events. They'd buy books there even when they could get them cheaper online because they felt ownership. They'd volunteer to help during busy times. Here's the thing that really matters. These customers had skin in the game. They'd invested time, they'd made friends, they'd contributed. Walking away would mean losing all of that. That's not churn you can solve with a discount. That's true retention. Another example, a small gym that was competing with big chains and budget fitness centers. They couldn't win on price or equipment, so they stopped trying. Instead, they built what they called fitness families. Groups of 8 to 10 people who worked out together, tracked each other's progress, celebrated wins together. These groups had their own text chains. They organized weekend hikes. They sent cards when someone hit a milestone. And the gym facilitated it all. They assigned people to groups thoughtfully. They provided the structure, but the members did the actual community building. Their churn rate dropped to almost zero because leaving the gym would mean abandoning your fitness family. And nobody wants to be that person. Blueprint for building. All right, so how do you actually do this? Because I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, but you're running a business, not a social club. You've got limited time and resources. Here's the practical framework I've seen work across different types of businesses. And this comes from my background running an internet solutions company. I had to build community with clients who were spread across multiple states. It's doable, but you need to be strategic. Step one is identifying your core values and what actually unites your customers. This is not about demographics. It's about psychographics. What do they care about? What problem are they trying to solve that's bigger than your product? That bike shop I mentioned earlier? Their customers weren't united by needing transportation. They were united by a love of outdoor adventure, environmental consciousness, and physical challenge. Once you understand that, you can build around it. Step two is creating spaces for connection. And I mean plural, spaces. You need both online and offline options because people engage differently. Some folks love showing up in person, others are more comfortable contributing online. There's a small garden supply store that nailed this. They have a private Instagram group where customers share photos of their gardens, ask for advice, troubleshoot pest problems. But they also host seasonal workshops, spring planting, fall composting, winter planning, different entry points for different personality types. And here's a gotcha that trips people up. You cannot over-moderate these spaces. If you're constantly jumping in with sales pitches or correcting people or controlling the conversation, you'll kill the community. Your job is to facilitate, not dominate. Let the customers talk to each other. Let them be the experts. Your role is to set the container and keep it safe. Step three, and this is critical, give your customers real agency. Let them co-create. Let them lead. Let them have actual influence over your business. I've seen a bakery do this brilliantly. Every quarter, they let their community vote on a new item to add to the menu. But here's the smart part. Customers can submit recipes. The community votes on finalists. Then they have a tasting event where people try them all and pick the winner. The person whose recipe wins gets their name on the menu item for the quarter, and it becomes part of the story. Can you imagine the loyalty that creates? That customer has literally put their stamp on the business. They're bringing everyone they know to try their creation. This is about moving from here's what we're selling to here's what we're building together. That shift in language and mindset changes everything. Quick pause here. If you're getting value from this, make sure you're subscribed because we go deep on business strategy every single week. And I want to hear from you in the comments. What's one way you could give your customers more agency in your business? What could you let them help create or decide? Drop your ideas below. I read every comment. Measuring what actually matters. Now let's talk metrics, because what gets measured gets managed, right? But here's where most businesses screw this up. They're measuring the wrong things. Repeat purchase rate is fine, but it's a lagging indicator. It tells you what already happened, not what's happening. If you want to build community, you need to track engagement and contribution. How many customers are participating in your online groups? How many are showing up to events? How many are creating content, answering other customers' questions, or recruiting friends? These are your real indicators of community health. There's a pet supply store that tracks what they call community actions. That includes things like posting in their Facebook group, attending their adoption events, volunteering to foster animals, referring friends, sharing photos of their pets with products. They've found that customers who take 3 or more community actions in their first 90 days have a 95% retention rate over 3 years. Think about that, 95% over 3 years. You can't get that with points. And here's what's beautiful about this approach. The growth becomes organic and exponential. When customers are genuinely part of a community, they recruit for you. Not because you asked them to, but because they want their friends to experience what they're experiencing. I saw this firsthand with my internet solutions company. Our best clients didn't just renew, they introduced us to other institutions. They spoke about us at industry conferences. They defended us when competitors tried to poach them. Why? Because they felt like partners, not customers. We'd involved them in product development. We'd created forums where they could connect with each other. We'd made them part of our story. That's when you know you've built community, when your customers start selling for you without being asked. The process documentation reality. Okay, here's something nobody talks about, but it's absolutely critical. You need to document this process. And I mean really document it, because community building isn't something you just wing. It requires systems. When I was working in risk management at the bank, one of the things we always emphasized was process documentation. Not because we love paperwork, but because if it's not documented, it's not repeatable. And if it's not repeatable, it dies when people leave or get busy. So, what does documentation look like for community building? It's things like, what's your onboarding sequence for new community members? How do you introduce them to the group? What are the rules and norms you communicate? Who's responsible for moderating and facilitating? How often are you hosting events, and what's the planning process? How are you recognizing and celebrating active members? There's a craft brewery that has this dialed in. They have a whole playbook for their beer club, which isn't about discounts, it's about community. New members get a welcome package with a handwritten note from the owner. They're invited to a quarterly Meet the Brewer session. They get early access to try new recipes and give feedback. There's a structured way for members to suggest ideas. But here's the key. All of this is documented. The staff knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. It doesn't fall apart when one person is sick or busy. The system runs. And you need to document your metrics too. How are you tracking engagement? What are your benchmarks? When do you intervene if someone's disengaging? This can't be gut feel. It needs to be data-driven. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Scott, this sounds like a lot of work. You're right. It is work. But here's the thing. You're already working hard on customer acquisition and retention. You're already spending time and money on marketing and loyalty programs that aren't working. This is about redirecting that energy into something that actually builds long-term value. And once you get the systems in place, once the community starts building itself, it becomes easier, not harder. The risk management perspective. Let me bring my risk management hat into this for a second, because there's an important angle here. Building community actually de-risks your business in ways traditional customer strategies don't. When your revenue depends on transactional customers, you're vulnerable. Market conditions change. A competitor opens nearby. Economic downturn hits. Your customers disappear. You have no moat. But when you've built genuine community, that's structural resilience. Your customers have invested in relationships with each other, not just with you. Walking away means losing those connections. That creates serious switching costs that have nothing to do with contracts or points. I've seen businesses weather really tough times because their community rallied around them. There's a yoga studio that had to close for 3 months during a building renovation. They thought they'd lose half their members. Instead, their community organized outdoor classes, practiced together via Zoom, and planned a big reopening celebration. When they reopened, they actually had more members than before. That's what community does. It creates anti-fragility. Your business doesn't just survive shocks, it can actually come out stronger. Look, here's the bottom line. We're living through a fundamental shift in how commerce works. The old model, find customers, sell them stuff, maybe get them to come back with loyalty points, that's dying. It still works in some contexts, but it's becoming less effective every year. The businesses that are thriving, the ones building real defensibility, they're not chasing transactions. They're building belonging. They're creating spaces where people connect with each other around shared values and interests. And yeah, they happen to sell products or services in that context, but that's not the main event anymore. This isn't just some feel-good strategy. This is hard-nosed business sense. Community-driven businesses have higher lifetime customer value, lower acquisition costs, and better resilience. The numbers prove it out. But it requires a mindset shift. You have to stop thinking of your customers as targets and start thinking of them as members. You have to be willing to share control and let them co-create. You have to build systems and document processes. You have to measure different things. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Because when you build real community, you're not just reducing churn to zero. You're creating something that compounds over time. Every new member adds value for existing members. Every connection strengthens the whole. That bike shop, that bookstore, that gym, they're not worried about churn anymore. They're not constantly hunting for new customers to replace the ones who left. They're focused on deepening relationships and letting their community grow organically. You can do the same thing. Whatever your business is, there's a way to build community around it. You just have to commit to it and be patient. This doesn't happen overnight. But when it does happen, that's when you've built something truly valuable, something that can't be easily copied or disrupted, something that lasts. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel. We're going deep on business risk and strategy every single week. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one step you're going to take this week to start building community in your business? I want to hear your plan. And if you want to dive deeper into business risk, operations, and growth strategies, check out the other videos on the channel. I've spent my entire career helping organizations manage risk and build resilience, and I'm sharing everything I've learned. Thanks for watching. Now go build something worth belonging to.